Evening guys, Franklin Carr, welcome to the channel. So today is the part 2 of the 30 litre barrel moving bed. Today we'll be fitting the air stone and the two tank connectors, the flow in and the return back to the pond. I have actually for the QT ordered a 15 watt UV which has come today from Skiggy's Pond Supplies. Thank you very much, sir. So from my moving bed it will now pass through a 15 watt UV and then return to the pond. So what I'm going to do today is finish it as far as reasonably practical, which is fit the air stone and fit the tank connectors. It will be going it's going to be plumbed in probably Saturday or Sunday, dependent. I've got quite a busy weekend, but I do need to get this fitted ASAP now, as soon as possible. So we're going to fit the air stone, like I said. I have some media which I can pinch from one of my larger static filters on the main pond. I'll PP it to ensure that it's not carrying anything across to the QT tank, which would defeat the object of having a QT tank. So we're going to do that, and we got some air line, some hoses, and a 50 centimeter air stone, brand new, which we'll be using to turn the moving bed. So we're going to jump across to that now, and we'll have a look at the CT1 on the Perspex lid window, if you like, see how that's dried. I do have also the upgraded springs that I was talking about, which I want to fit on there, so I'll do that as well, first job. Before we jump over, I'd like to say a massive thanks to Seska's Pond and Reef. My first cup came today, thank you very much. Yours is on the way, Seska, including your prize, your NT Labs water testing kit. I believe my significant other is going to take that to the post office tomorrow and get that posted off to you, as well as a cup for another YouTuber. A bit delayed sending this one, actually I should have sent it a while ago, so I'll get that out to a very popular YouTuber. I won't mention any names. It'll be a nice surprise to see on his face, because this is going to really fuck with his OCD. It's going to be epic. He'll appreciate the cup, I know, but where he's going to put this one, I don't know. I like a challenge. Anyway, so we'll jump across now and we'll do some more on the QT and the QT moving bed. Get the tank connectors fitted, as I said. Check on the CT1, and from there on in, I'm going to have to plumb it in situ. It's going to be a case of fitting the UV and then plumb to the UV and then back into the pond. So yeah, another couple of days work probably, or it's going to take me a couple of days, bearing in mind the hours of work. So let's jump across and get cracking. Okie dokie, so the first job we want to do is we want to upgrade that to a stiffer spring, just to make sure we're getting a seal. It isn't 100% airtight. What I do find is at that point there is actually a slight passage of air, but bearing in mind the Evolution Aqua 10,000 pump I'm running is throttled to ensure that we don't end up with an exploding keg or any water gushing out of them. Excuse me. I'm quite happy with the functionality of it. It's one of them. I suppose you could always put a small rubber washer on just to get it airtight, or even glue that down with a bit of CT1 on the head there, just to ensure airtightness, but I don't want to affect it actually functioning full stop, so I ain't gonna bother. So first things we're going to do is we're going to swap that screw out on there. Let's rest that there. It's quite a soft spring, that, really. So we're going to swap that for some others that I purchased off your trusty Amazon site, and that is actually them there. and these are a lot more stiffer. Same size. And fits the thread of the bolt quite snugly. It's just an absolute sod to get them on because they're so stiff. Doesn't have any detriment swapping it over really, unless you want it to actually suck air in for whatever reason. I suppose that would be the only time you probably wouldn't consider swapping it over. It is a locking nut, so it is quite stiff, and that side is an Allen key fitting. So that's done. We'll give it a stiffen up with an Allen key properly after. In terms of the mastic, the CT1 seems to have dried and stuck quite well. I can't see any bubbles or passage of air through there, so it should hold it on quite nicely. Winner winner chicken dinner. In terms of tank connectors, I've already said I use the Cockney coys because they're metric, are metric, and they are bang on perfect. They work very well. So 40 and a 50, we're going to be using one of each. The others are obviously to return and receive from either the upflow filter or the quarantine tank itself. So we're going to need two bits, 57, I think the other one, the big one's a 63, and these are an accurate hole saw to allow me to drill for the thread of the tank connectors. They're a pretty snug fit, so it ensures that your rubber gasket will still give you a good seal. And the 63 equally so. Not a lot of play in it, gives you a good seal on it still. You still got a good 5, 6, 7 mil around the edge there, which is perfect. It's almost like Bosch new. I'll be building a pond. So the plan is to have the 40 mil pass out the side. That will then go off to the UV. Obviously under pressure it'll go to the UV. The 50 mil will be tank to tank to ensure that I've got a good flow from the upflow filter, from the static filter into the moving bed filter, and then obviously 40 return. So the 50 will be going at the bottom on this because it will come from the top of the pressure filter into the bottom of the moving bed. Moving bed will move nice and freely and out to the UV. Another reason I won't be connecting it just yet is because I've had to order another bucket load of 40 mil and 50 mil pipe bends, 45s, 90s, to actually complete the plumbing in. I can do the 50s, I just couldn't complete the 40s right now. The UV, as I say, has come. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to put the lid to one side, lose the shrapnel, and we need to make sure that we're fitting the tank connector onto a flat surface area. Bearing in mind there is stamping, date of manufacture, description, labelling, and the seal would not sit flush onto that and it would actually leak, so we need to find a flat area to penetrate through. But what we have to bear in mind is as we're using a 50 we need to make sure we've got enough room for the bends in the pipe to come in without going beyond obviously the bottom of the barrel. So we're looking for something about 2 inches, 2.5 inches from the bottom of the barrel to make sure that we've got sufficient room to complete the plumbing in, and we've got clearance at the bottom of it, so we don't actually end up with a barrel sitting on a heel of a bend. So on that bombshell, let's take said 50mm tank connector and mark the position for drilling through. We'll load the drill with said relevant hole saw. That's for the 40 previous efforts, and we'll get this one done first. With it being at the bottom of the barrel, I'm going to work my way out of it. One thing you want to do when you're drilling these is make sure you keep your drill steady. You don't jiggle it about because you don't want to oversize the hole, for the obvious reason of your rubber gasket, your rubber washer needs to have a good flat area and coverage to form the seal. So we said we're going to come in 2 inches, which is plus minus there, which will give me enough room for the 45 going up, or the 40 or the 90, whichever way it transpires. As I say, I'm going to plumb it in on site next to the barrel, or with the other barrel, to make sure that I've got it plumbed in the way I need it. Bingo. And what we're going to do is we're going to peel off the swath. I actually have some sandpaper pads, and I'll run that round. Now another way of doing it is to actually offer up a lighter. I don't condone playing with fire, but I do like playing with fire. What it does is basically it makes the plastic more brittle and sometimes more malleable. And you find it actually comes away fairly easy. So that is actually reasonably flat now. So numero uno is the 50mm tank connector. Don't forget, your rubber washer goes on the outside. What I find the easiest with these is if you run the knot backwards and wait for the click, that usually tells you that you're on the thread and you're not going to cross thread it. So we've got good seating there, nice and tight. Even though it is quite a tight radius, it does take to it quite well. That's hand tight. I'm not going to tighten it anymore because I will with my hands break the thread on it. So that one is the 40, the 50 rather, 50mm metric pipe tank connector. And now I'm going to revert to the 40. So in my mind, I want the feeds to come from the back of the barrel. So if the other barrel is situated here, the flow will go out the back of the barrel where there is no other tank connectors. The only other tank connector comes from the front. So that will go from the back down into that one, which means my feed for my return back to the UV will need to come either out the back as well and go around the back, or across the front and cross over, but I know my feed off the pressure filter is there, so it's going to conflict. And what I don't want is the flow to go down, to come back up, to go into the UV. I want it as level as possible to maintain a constant pressure or flow of water going through the UV, so I know I'm not going to run it dry. So the other bad boy is going to come out the same at the back as well. It's important you think about pipe work and layout. It's very expensive to do it 2 times, let alone once, especially when you're using high pressure pipe work. As we all know, it's a scandalous bloody price. So as I say, in this I want to run it as high as possible to make sure I've got a good height for the return back into the pond and through the UV and back into the pond. It is a pressure barrel, so it will be able to maintain a level of pressure, but I'd rather be 100% rather than 55%. So we'll run it so it comes out almost exact. And we'll get off while it's warm what we can. All the barrels, once construction of whatever it is I'm making is done, I always jet wash them out. A good idea is not to put any form of sanitizing in, washing up liquid or anything. They are food grade barrels, they come food grade standard. They should only need a rinse out. After a couple of days, what you will find is any plastic in there will lose its static charging following the cutting process. It does become statically charged, and it will begin to fall off the sides, and you'll see it all on the bottom. So give it a rinse out, let it dry. Any doubts, just run a hoover through it. So here's the 40. Run it backwards. You should hear a click when it lands on the thread. There we go. Don't break it, it's wanted. So again, we're just going to do it hand tight. We might need to tighten up again once it's been in the sun or it's been running. I don't recommend you over tighten them. As I say, it won't take the thread off. It'll break the thread. So again, quite a tight radius, and it's at an angle as well, the neck of the barrel. And I can see we've got a good seating. The washer hasn't pushed out from the tightening process. Sometimes they pull out a bit, push out a little bit, but that's as good as gold. Okay, so that's that. The next process is we're going to put in the airline from the underside to the bottom with the 50mm air stone. I put stuff down and I can't fucking find it. There we go. Brand new, no risk of cross contamination. It is an inaugural appointment for the air stone. It's the first time it's been used. As I say, I'm using a good high pressure hose. I've used this on my pond almost everywhere, apart from the main high pressure line, which is a 12mm with 2 pumps feeding from either end, and then the air stones and such like for the moving barrel, moving bed barrel, branching off it. So I maintain a full pressure from pumps at either end constantly. There's no pressure drop at all. Weird science. So we're just going to warm it up slightly with a lighter, because what we want to do is we want to make the second neck on the airline. And generally this stuff's that good. I do not need to put a Jubilee on. I do have some, but I generally find I don't need it. So that has got a good grip on that. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a measurement from the bottom of the barrel to that point there. And that pretty much gives me the air stone dropping into the centre of the barrel at the bottom, which means I get a good rotation and hopefully no dead spots within the barrel. These air stones, they are pretty good, and I use them as secondary dropping air stones when we've got warm weather, so never really have any problems. So we're going to cut that and we'll offer it into the underside of the female part. There we go, wait for it to stop at the end. And once that's in, I'm not sure how well you can see because of the glare, but you can see the air stones pretty much central. It's close enough for me. It now means that will become a sealed unit with another hose line coming off the top of there. Wait for it to stop at the very end, and that'll go off to the air pump. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. And obviously once the media's in there, there's a bit of water in there, the pipes are connected. That is literally it. The only other thing I need to do is to remove the last of the plastic packaging and CT1 it. And with that said, I think I'm actually going to do that little job now, so I know that is done. Okay, so CT1 mastic is applied. As I've said, it is a filter lid at the end of the day, but any overspills of CT1 actually do come off acrylic quite well. So you can go back after, give it a clean up, give it a tidy up. I certainly will, which is why I'm not so bothered about the smudging and smearing, because I know it does actually come off acrylic really well. It's another reason why that is as overkill as it is, just to make sure that it doesn't come off. But CT1 comes off acrylic easier than you think it will, even though this is the super strong version, high tack. Does come off. So I put the CT1 around it and I've offered the screws back into position, as when you're doing a pond window or EPDM dress into a wide mouth skimmer, for example. You are looking for a little bit of mastic coming out the side of it, which is inevitable, I suppose. But there is one key thing that you have to remember once you've tightened your screws up, is to remember to flip it over and just make sure you're not clogging up the mechanism itself. So with your screwdriver and a bit of kitchen towel, you just want to scoop it off or work it round, and just make sure you take those little deposits off there. You don't want to impede the function of it. The reason you fitted it is because you want the function of it. There we go, that'll do me for now. Once that's dried, that will actually break away with a pointed end of a blade from a Stanley knife. CT1 is incredibly tough stuff, but it's really easy to work with. So that, in a nutshell, basically, is that. So we'll reconnect that air line. They do fit brilliantly, these, and they've never let me down. I might actually trim a little bit off it, to be fair. Cuts very easy with a pair of scissors. You are able to purchase a special cutting tool for the airline, but as long as your scissors are as sharp as a razor blade, you're good to go. So once that's in there, your air stone is pretty much central to the bottom. As I say, I'm going to put 10 litres of K1 initially, and then I'll top it up with another 5. I think 15 litre of K1 in a 30 litre barrel to start off with
will be good enough for me. Maybe at some point just top it up with a 1 litre jug, so I know exactly what measurement of K1 I'm putting into the barrel, and I can keep account of how much is in there. So for now, that's pretty much as I can do. I've got the 40mm pipe, I've got the 50mm pipe, I've got the 50mm bends. I'm just waiting on the 40mm bends. What I do need to do though, which is an obvious one, is I need to make the stoppers to prevent the K1 from returning backwards through the system or feeding into the pond. So what I'll be using for that is a length of pipe, and I'll run my 4-inch grinder blade up the pipe to cut a lengthwise slit, and then fit an end cap and drill several 6mm holes in. Only a little stubby you need for preventing your K1 from leaving the barrel. I am going to do them now. I think I've got some offcuts somewhere that I can utilise, and if I can get as much done now, tonight, as possible, better for me, which means a quicker fitting come the weekend. So, from a budget and build it point of view, that quite literally is how it is built. Now, it is possible and feasible, if you wanted to build just a pressure filter, to build your pressure filter in exactly the same manner with exactly the same airline connections, so you can use an air pump to circulate the K1 when you want to clean it. Obviously you've got your incoming from your pond pump and you've got your return to the pond. So the pressure filter is built in exactly the same way as I'm building this moving bed filter. The only difference is my static filter, I did not put an airline in. I don't need to. It's possible to actually push the pump through and then drain it out, right, without it returning to the pond. You drop your water level halfway, push it in with the pump, drop it out, push it in, drop it out, and that on its own creates movement in the media and cleans the media. My giant filters can be cleaned, my bigger filters, barrel filters, can be cleaned in exactly the same way, and they are actually cleaned in the same way. Moving bed, static, the only one that isn't, of course, is the biological barrel. So that's from me, folks. That is part 2 on how to build a moving bed filter, 30 litre. If you've got a fish tank, that would last you some significant time before you need to clean it. Probably do you some merit. But for a quarantine tank, and for my purposes, quarantine tank isn't used constantly all the time. It's generally homing, settling in new fish and checking for anything that potentially may have come with, and or putting to one side and hospitalising any sick fish, and these, I think, do a treat. So from me, Frank Coy, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a thumbs up. It's nice to know people do appreciate seeing this kind of thing being done, and learning a little bit of engineering, I suppose, and a bit of pond keeping skills. So thanks very much. Just to let you know that there is going to be a giveaway towards the end of August, and it is going to be a battery powered pH temperature gauge reader. I will do a short for it at some point this week, showing the unit. If anybody follows Will's Koi, Will's Koi has done a bit of a video on it. He seems to like it, and they do what they say in the tin. But for me, for now, that's it. Cheers guys, thanks for watching.